Hey community, welcome to our sermon podcast for wanderers, seekers, and thinkers, for deconstructing and reconstructing. This is a feed of Open Door Church, a faith community focused on God's love and grace, a progressive church built around action, community, and people. Enjoy this week's message and check back often as we're posting new content every week.
We're going to try something new this morning. No, you're all worried. It's okay. First things first. So we've been working through this series, Wired, born out of a video that our interns created over last summer. Essentially asking, but asking what are the best ways to respond to mental health in the church? And where has the church gone awry in our efforts to handle mental health struggles and mental illness? So we've been asking this question, well, how should a church respond? What does this mean? What should this look like? And one of the starting places was a conversation on the traditional or stereotypical ways that churches respond to mental illness, which has been quite negative and harmful, not just neutral, but harmful. So we asked first, well, what causes that response, and why have we waited so long to undo this? The second thing that we wanted to look at simply is to talk about it from the stage and have an open dialogue and conversation about mental health and mental illness, and be able to sort of at least work toward destigmatizing mental illness. Simply because when we don't talk about it, we further sweep it under the rug and refuse to really address it head on. Which means that it's harder for people to talk about, it's harder for people to get help, it's harder for people to find support, even or especially in their church community. So that's the starting point for this conversation. I want to identify something before we get going too far, which is we've been using terms mental health and mental illness kind of side by side, and in some respect interchangeably. And addressing those two things together is actually quite difficult, because when we talk about mental health, we can be talking about everything from ways to promote mental health, ways to be prepared for hard days, for struggles. We could be talking about things that 100% of people experience in terms of anxiety or days that are depressive, or things that we're all experiencing. And then when we slide over to mental illness, we have clinical diagnoses when we talk about mental illness. Those are two different conversations, right? And so I just want to name that as we go through these conversations, we're both trying to promote healthy mental health habits, but also be aware that we can talk about mental illness, seek professional help when we need to seek professional help, be aware of the signs and symptoms of when we need to seek that help, and those kinds of things. So we're talking about several things in one lump sum, and that's difficult to do and not always workable. So this morning I want to try something new. So all of that is precursor to and has nothing to do with what we're about to do, except that better health, mental health strategies are important for all of us, 100%, and thinking about how are we addressing struggles, how are we addressing the days, how are we addressing stress, anxiety, all of these things. All of that is about promoting better mental health strategies. And I want to offer this morning a bit of practice instead of lesson. because we should be practicing that on occasion when we come as well. We're going to try a practice today called Lectio Divina, which really just means reading of the divine, or reading the divine, or it's about reading Scripture and allowing God to work through the listening process. It came through the monastic tradition, the monastic Christian tradition, and has been developed over centuries and centuries. It is more than meditation. It is more than prayer. It is more than reading Scripture. It is sort of pulling all of these different concepts together and allowing Scripture to speak. Another piece about this, as we get going, is this is not an academic process. For me, that is difficult. I enjoy the academics of Scripture. I enjoy the scholarship. I enjoy digging in and discovering what did the author mean, what's the cultural context, what's going on around, how did the author set this in other conversations and in other stories about, say, the life of Jesus or Paul and the early church or whatever. All of those conversations are where I really thrive and enjoy. This is none of that. Okay? You ready? This is not that. So as we're doing this, I want you to allow the words to speak to you in ways that may be uncomfortable, that may not feel right, that may not suit your academic or scholarship desires or whatever. Some of you, this will be perfectly comfortable and you'll be like, yes, this is how I like to do Scripture. So we're going to take a passage. We will not talk about the context. We will pull it from Scripture and we won't have the previous or the end. It's just this, okay? And here's how this process is going to work. We're going to start with reading of the Scripture. It is 5 lines. We're going to start with reading the Scripture, and we're going to just sit with it. I'll reread a few lines, and we'll do that for a few minutes, but we're just going to sit with the Scripture and listen. The second thing we're going to do is reflect on the Scripture. So this is a listening process, if that makes sense. So first we're going to hear the words. Second, we're going to reflect or contemplate, or some would put the word meditate here. It is an opening up of yourself to listen and to hear beyond the text. You might take a phrase from the text that you want to focus on for that time period. The third thing we're going to do is respond individually, not out loud. And we'll spend a few minutes with you specifically thinking about your response to the things you've just reflected on. Again, not in context, not the academic process, just something that speaks to you in that time of reflection. Then, well, what do I need to do about it? How do I need to respond? What does this mean for me now? And then lastly, we're going to rest, which kind of sounds like the second one, meditate or contemplate, but really the idea is not that. The idea is to just let it sit. And we'll do that for a few minutes. So it's going to be quiet for a while. Is that okay? I will read and reread, and then I'll guide you through each of those steps as we move from one to the next. How does that sound? You didn't know what you were signing up for this morning. That's a good thing. It should be that way, I think, from time to time. All right, are you ready? Take 15 seconds. If you need to create some space between your neighbor, you can do that. If you need to be on the floor in the middle of the aisle, do that. Take a few seconds, and then we'll go. That's all my dance moves. Okay, we will begin with some reading.
Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. You will find rest for your souls. Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest.
So we'll move now to the reflection. So take the next few minutes to reflect on a phrase or a concept. You can contemplate, you may meditate. But we'll take a few minutes simply to be still and to reflect. Next, we will move to our response. This is the dialogue of our prayer. This is what we've received. How do we respond? Either in words, thoughts, questions, actions. We'll spend a few minutes in thinking through and responding. And finally, we're going to take a few minutes to rest. This is not more contemplation. This is letting go of the passage, letting go of our response, letting go of our thoughts, and being still, silent, at peace, in rest. We'll invite you back. One of the ways for us to better handle life, stress, anxiety, noise, is to find times of solitude, of peace, of silence. Whether that's through something guided like this, or through prayer, or simple silence, or meditation. I invite you to try that more at home. I'd say we probably spent about half of the time that we really needed to. So that was about 15 minutes. If you're like me, finding 30 minutes to do something alone at home is rather difficult. But those are ways that we can care for our body that is beyond the physical, and ways that we can connect with God.
Thanks for listening to this sermon podcast from Open Door Church. Our intro and outro music was created by Lee Rosevear and is used under a Creative Commons by attribution license. Have a great week. Ask the hard questions and explore God's love. Everyone is always welcome to join the journey with us at Open Door. Learn more at opendoorfamily.ca. That's opendoorfamily.ca.